The massive radio telescope array in Chile's Atacama Desert hummed with unexpected activity. J-Park leaned closer to the quantum signal processor, his eyes widening as a distress transmission flickered across multiple frequency bands. Something extraordinary was happening. The signal wasn't like anything Earth had ever received before. It wasn't a random burst of cosmic noise or a pulsar's rhythmic pulse. This was a deliberate, complex communication carrying an urgent message of desperation. The transmission originated from a distant star system approximately 127 light-years from Earth, far beyond traditional human exploration zones. Zhe quickly initiated emergency communication protocols. His fingers danced across holographic interfaces, recording and analyzing every microscopic detail of the alien transmission. The signal carried multiple layers of communication: visual data, mathematical equations, and what seemed like linguistic patterns representing a civilization on the absolute brink of collapse. Within hours, international scientific committees were assembled. Satellite networks redirected, supercomputers engaged, and global communication channels buzzed with unprecedented excitement. Something monumental was unfolding. The Coral Confederation, as they would later be identified, were facing total annihilation. Their transmissions revealed a horrifying scenario. A mechanized species known as the Void Swarm was systematically destroying their civilization. These mechanical entities moved like a plague through star systems, consuming resources, dismantling planetary infrastructures, and leaving nothing but cosmic debris in their wake. What made the transmission unique was its raw emotional content. Unlike clinical scientific communications, this message carried a profound sense of vulnerability. The Coral weren't just sending a distress call. They were essentially begging for survival, revealing their technological limitations and complete strategic vulnerability. Initial computer models suggested the Void Swarm had already destroyed 63% of the Coral's colonized star systems. Their remaining population was estimated at less than 500,000 individuals, clustered in a handful of heavily fortified but rapidly failing planetary settlements. Their technological defenses were crumbling, and their extinction seemed inevitable. Most intriguing was the mathematical precision of their communication. Embedded within the transmission were complex problem-solving scenarios, almost like an intelligence test. It was as if the Coral were not just requesting help, but also evaluating the potential capabilities of any civilization capable of receiving and understanding their message. J-Park realized they were witnessing a pivotal moment in human history. This wasn't just a random alien communication. This was a civilization's last desperate attempt to survive, casting a cosmic message in a bottle into the vast, indifferent universe. Global leadership responded with remarkable speed. Within 72 hours, emergency sessions of the United Nations convened. Military strategists, quantum physicists, xenolinguists, and space exploration experts began dissecting every aspect of the transmission. The primary question was simple yet profound. Could humanity respond? Did they possess the technological capabilities to traverse such vast cosmic distances and potentially intervene in an interstellar conflict? Initial assessments were cautiously optimistic. Recent advancements in quantum propulsion, developed through international collaborations, suggested that rapid interstellar travel might be possible. The experimental quantum drive technologies, previously considered theoretical, suddenly became humanity's potential lifeline for an unprecedented rescue mission. What the Coral didn't know was that humanity had been preparing for such a scenario for decades. Advanced space exploration programs, often criticized as wasteful governmental expenditures, now seemed prophetic. Prototype starships, designed with modular combat and exploration capabilities, could potentially be rapidly deployed. As global teams worked around the clock, one thing became clear: this transmission was more than a mere distress call. It was a test of humanity's technological maturity, compassion, and ability to look beyond its own planetary boundaries. J-Park, still monitoring the initial transmission, felt a chill run down his spine. Humanity stood at a crossroads. Their response would define not just their own species' trajectory, but potentially establish their first meaningful contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. The cosmic message waited. The coral waited, and humanity was about to answer. The global response was swift and unprecedented. Captain Sung Kim stood in the United Earth Command Center, watching holographic displays that mapped potential interstellar routes. The room buzzed with controlled tension, scientists and military personnel working side by side with an intensity that felt almost electric. Dr. Hyun Choi, the lead quantum engineering specialist, had been working for 72 hours straight. His team had developed a breakthrough in faster-than-light propulsion that seemed impossible just months earlier. The experimental quantum drive was no longer just a theoretical concept. It was now a potential salvation for an entire alien civilization. Prototype starships, previously considered expensive vanity projects, were now being rapidly modified. Manufacturing centers across the globe transformed overnight. Aerospace factories in the United States, advanced technology parks in South Korea, and cutting-edge research facilities in Europe began producing components for what would become humanity's first true deep space rescue mission. The financial commitment was staggering. Governments and private corporations pooled resources unprecedented in human history. Billionaires who had once competed for space tourism contracts now collaborated, understanding that this was more than a commercial venture. This was a defining moment for the entire human species. Military strategists recognized the complexity of the mission. This wasn't a conventional war scenario. They were preparing to engage with a mechanical species, the Void Swarm, about which they knew almost nothing. Every simulation, every strategy meeting revealed how little humans understood about this potential threat. Captain Kim's team included experts from diverse backgrounds. There were quantum physicists who could calculate faster-than-light trajectories, combat veterans who understood strategic engagement, xenolinguists who might help communicate with the coral, and medical specialists prepared for unknown biological challenges. The quantum drive technology was humanity's most significant breakthrough. Traditional rocket propulsion would have taken centuries to reach the coral's star system. The new drive could potentially compress massive distances, allowing travel that would have seemed like pure science fiction just a decade earlier. Training for the mission became intense and comprehensive. Potential crew members underwent rigorous physical and psychological evaluations. They needed to be more than just skilled professionals. They needed to be adaptable, resilient, and capable of making split-second decisions in environments completely alien to human experience. Dr. Choi's breakthrough came from an unexpected combination of quantum entanglement principles and advanced plasma propulsion technologies. The drive could theoretically create localized space-time compression, essentially folding space to reduce travel distances. It was like creating temporary wormholes that could be precisely controlled. Political barriers that had seemed insurmountable months ago now crumbled. Nations that had been traditional rivals signed cooperative agreements. The United Nations granted special emergency powers to coordinate the mission. For the first time in human history, global resources were being directed toward a truly collective goal. The starship design was revolutionary. Modular sections could be rapidly reconfigured for combat, exploration, or rescue operations. Advanced AI systems would assist human crews, providing real-time analysis and predictive modeling. Weapon systems were developed not just for potential combat, but for defensive and disruptive capabilities against an unknown mechanical threat. Communication specialists worked tirelessly to develop potential translation protocols. The mathematical components of the coral's original transmission provided initial insights, but creating a comprehensive communication strategy remained a significant challenge. Psychological preparation was equally crucial. The potential crew needed to understand they might be humanity's first true deep space ambassadors. Their actions could define humanity's first meaningful interaction with an extraterrestrial civilization. As launch preparations intensified, a sense of global anticipation grew. News networks broadcast continuous updates. People around the world followed every development, Understanding that something extraordinary was about to happen, Captain Sung Kim reviewed the final mission parameters. Their objective was clear: respond to the Coral's distress call, assess the situation, and if possible, provide assistance against the Void Swarm. They would be traveling into completely unknown territory, carrying the hopes and potential of an entire species. The quantum drive starship, christened Hope's Horizon, represented humanity's most ambitious technological achievement. It stood ready, a testament to human innovation, cooperation, and an unexpected capacity for compassion that extended far beyond planetary boundaries. Humanity was about to answer an alien civilization's most desperate call. The universe waited. The starship Hope's Horizon dropped out of quantum space with a silent luminescence that momentarily distorted surrounding stellar structures. Lieutenant Yoon Lee's hands moved across holographic control panels, her eyes scanning multiple threat detection systems. The Coral Home system looked like a graveyard of broken planets. Massive debris fields stretched across entire star sectors, silent testament to the Void Swarm's systematic destruction. Automated defense satellites, remnants of the Coral's once advanced civilization, drifted like ghostly sentinels. Admiral Guy Wanhuang's voice crackled through the ship's communication systems. Tactical teams, prepare initial scanning protocols. We're entering unknown territory. Sophisticated sensor arrays began probing the system. Within minutes, they detected mechanical signatures unlike anything in human technological records. The Void Swarm wasn't just a weapon system. It was a living, adaptive mechanical ecosystem that consumed and transformed entire planetary structures. The first encounter happened unexpectedly. Swarm units, mechanical entities that looked like interconnected metallic organisms, detected the human ship. They moved with a frightening synchronization, thousands of units forming complex geometric attack formations. Lieutenant Lee's training kicked in. She understood these weren't traditional spacecraft, but something more organic. The Void Swarm's units could reconfigure themselves mid-battle, changing weapon systems and defensive capabilities in microseconds. Defensive pattern Delta, she commanded. The ship's adaptive shield systems activated, creating quantum-locked energy barriers that could resist multiple simultaneous attack vectors. The battle became a complex dance of technological innovation. Human ships moved with an unpredictability that confused the mechanical attackers. Where traditional military forces might have rigid movement patterns, the human crews used creative, almost improvisational tactics. Weapon systems developed specifically for this mission proved remarkable. Quantum disruptors could temporarily disable mechanical units by introducing quantum instabilities into their core operational systems. Each shot was a precise mathematical calculation, targeting specific mechanical vulnerabilities. Surviving Coral communication units watched in astonishment. Humanity was doing what their entire civilization had failed to do: effectively resist the Void Swarm's methodical destruction. The mechanical units attempted multiple attack strategies. They would merge into larger, more complex battle forms. They would split into smaller, more agile units. They would create electromagnetic interference designed to confuse human targeting systems. But human technology adapted faster. Advanced AI systems processed threat models in milliseconds, providing tactical recommendations that seemed almost prescient. The ship's computer wasn't just analyzing. It was learning and predicting Void Swarm behavior. Lieutenant Lee noticed something fascinating. The Void Swarm's units seemed to have a collective intelligence, but they struggled with truly random, emotionally driven decision-making. Human unpredictability became their greatest weapon. 3 hours into the engagement, the first major breakthrough occurred. A concentrated quantum disruption wave created a cascading failure in several Void Swarm attack formations. Entire sections of mechanical units became temporarily inert, drifting powerlessly. Admiral Wang's strategic oversight became crucial. He coordinated multiple ship movements, creating complex engagement patterns that the mechanical units couldn't easily predict or counter. The remaining coral population watched through limited communication channels. Their last hope, these strange human vessels, was performing beyond their most optimistic predictions. As the initial engagement concluded, something unexpected happened. The surviving Void Swarm units began a systematic retreat, almost as if recalculating their tactical assessment of this new opponent. Lieutenant Yun Li allowed herself a momentary smile. Humanity had just proven they were more than just another potential target. They were a force to be recognized, respected, and potentially feared. The first battle was over, but everyone knew this was just the beginning of a much larger conflict. Humanity had entered the galactic stage, and they had made an extraordinary first impression. The critical battle unfolded in the darkness between dying stars. Engineer Wu Jin watched the holographic displays, his fingers dancing across quantum computational interfaces that tracked millions of simultaneous tactical variables. The Void Swarm had regrouped, bringing unprecedented concentration of mechanical units. Entire asteroid fields were consumed and transformed into living weapon platforms. What humanity once considered a simple mechanical threat now revealed itself as a complex, adaptive organism capable of total systemic transformation. Commander Delyun Park's voice remained calm despite the escalating chaos. All units, implement quantum interference protocols. Do not allow unified swarm formations. Human ships moved like liquid mercury, defying traditional space combat expectations. Each vessel carried experimental technologies that could reconfigure weapon systems in microseconds. Where mechanical units expected predictable responses, human crews introduced chaotic, almost intuitive battle strategies. Wu Jin's most significant contribution was a breakthrough quantum disruption algorithm. By introducing specific mathematical interference patterns, he could temporarily destabilize entire sections of mechanical attack formations. It was like introducing a precise virus into a complex computational system. The battle landscape changed constantly. Mechanical units would merge, split, reconfigure, creating complex geometric attack patterns that would have overwhelmed traditional military tactics. But human adaptability proved more sophisticated than mechanical predictive models. Surviving coral observation units watched in absolute amazement. These humans were doing what their entire civilization had failed to achieve, not just resisting, but actively disrupting the Void Swarm's operational logic. Massive energy weapons discharge, creating spectacular visual displays that transformed entire sectors of space. Quantum shields absorbed incredible amounts of destructive energy, while adaptive targeting systems allowed human vessels to strike with unprecedented precision. Commander Park recognized the battle's psychological dimension. The Void Swarm wasn't just a weapon system. It was an evolving intelligence that learned from each engagement. Every human tactical decision was simultaneously a test, a challenge, and a potential vulnerability to be exploited. The critical moment came unexpectedly. Wu Jin's quantum disruption algorithm found a fundamental weakness in the Void Swarm's collective computational network. By introducing specific mathematical interference patterns, entire mechanical formations began to destabilize. Targeting sequence activated, Park commanded. All units, concentrate quantum disruptive fire on detected computational nodes. The human fleet moved with a synchronization that seemed almost supernatural. Ships that moments before appeared independent now worked as a single living organism. Each vessel compensated for others, creating complex defensive and offensive patterns that mechanical units struggled to comprehend. Mechanical attack formations began to collapse. Where thousands of units once moved with perfect synchronization, now they fragmented, lost cohesion, became vulnerable. The Void Swarm was experiencing something it had never encountered, a truly adaptive, emotionally driven opponent. Surviving mechanical units began a systematic retreat, but this wasn't a traditional withdrawal. It was more like a complex computational recalculation. The Void Swarm was learning, analyzing, preparing for future engagements. As the battle concluded, the space around them looked transformed. Massive debris fields of mechanical units drifted silently. Human ships moved with a quiet confidence, having demonstrated capabilities that would reshape galactic understanding of technological warfare. Wu Jin looked at the computational logs. They had done more than win a battle. They had introduced a fundamental challenge to the Void Swarm's operational logic. Humanity was no longer just a potential target. They were a sophisticated, unpredictable force. Commander Park's final transmission captured the moment's significance. Mission status. Tactical victory achieved. Prepare for potential follow-up operations. The universe had watched, and humanity had spoken, not with aggression, but with an unprecedented display of technological innovation and adaptive intelligence. The critical battle was over, but the war was just beginning. The aftermath of the battle transformed everything humanity understood about interstellar relationships. President Ji-Hoon Kang stood in the United Earth Council chamber, watching holographic representations of the Coral leadership prepare for their first official diplomatic meeting. Surviving coral populations, mere hundreds of thousands, looked at humans with a mixture of gratitude, wonder, and cautious respect. Their civilization, which had been moments away from total extinction, now faced an unexpected future because of human intervention. Ambassador Su Jin-ba prepared the initial diplomatic protocols. The challenges were immense. How do you establish communication with a species that had experienced near-total destruction? How do you build trust after a rescue that seemed almost miraculous? Technological exchanges began rapidly. Coral scientists, humbled by human capabilities, shared complex computational models that had helped them survive generations of conflict. In return, human researchers gained unprecedented insights into adaptive technological systems. The United Earth Council recognized this was more than a simple rescue mission. This was humanity's first true intergalactic diplomatic engagement. Every decision would be scrutinized, not just by the Coral, but by potential observing civilizations across multiple star systems. Quantum communication networks were established, allowing real-time information exchange between human and Coral research teams. What had begun as a desperate distress call now transformed into a comprehensive technological and cultural partnership. The Void Swarm's retreat wasn't considered a total victory. Military strategists understood this was likely just the first engagement in a potentially long-term conflict. Humanity had proven its capabilities, but the mechanical threat remained a significant unknown. Reconstruction efforts began immediately. Human engineering teams worked alongside Coral survivors, helping them rebuild critical infrastructure. Advanced fabrication technologies allowed rapid restoration of planetary systems that had been systematically destroyed. President Kang's diplomatic approach was deliberate and compassionate. "We did not come as conquerors," he stated in the first public transmission, "but as partners in survival. Our goal is not dominance, but mutual understanding." The technological transfer was unprecedented. Coral quantum computational models combined with human adaptive engineering created solutions that neither civilization could have developed independently. It was a true partnership of innovation. Surviving Coral leaders were surprised by humanity's approach. Unlike other civilizations they had encountered, humans showed no interest in territorial expansion or resource extraction. The rescue had been performed with what seemed like pure humanitarian motivation. Military research continued, but with a collaborative approach. Human and Coral teams began developing advanced defensive technologies designed to protect not just their own civilizations, but potential future allies facing similar threats. Ambassador Ba's diplomatic team worked tirelessly to establish comprehensive communication protocols. They weren't just translating languages, but creating frameworks for understanding fundamentally different cultural and technological perspectives. The United Earth Council approved massive resource allocations for continued support and research. What had begun as a rescue mission was now transforming into humanity's first serious step into broader galactic engagement. The universe had watched, and humanity had spoken, not with aggression, but with an unprecedented display of technological innovation and adaptive intelligence. The critical battle was over, but the war was just beginning. The aftermath of the battle transformed everything humanity understood about interstellar relationships. President Ji-Hoon Kang stood in the United Earth Council chamber, watching holographic representations of the coral leadership prepare for their first official diplomatic meeting. Surviving coral populations, mere hundreds of thousands, looked at humans with a mixture of gratitude, wonder, and cautious respect. Their civilization, which had been moments away from total extinction, now faced an unexpected future because of human intervention. Ambassador Su Jin-ba prepared the initial diplomatic protocols. The challenges were immense. How do you establish communication with a species that had experienced near-total destruction? How do you build trust after a rescue that seemed almost miraculous? Technological exchanges began rapidly. Coral scientists, humbled by human capabilities, shared complex computational models that had helped them survive generations of conflict. In return, human researchers gained unprecedented insights into adaptive technological systems. The United Earth Council recognized this was more than a simple rescue mission. This was humanity's first true intergalactic diplomatic engagement. Every decision would be scrutinized, not just by the coral, but by potential observing civilizations across multiple star systems. Quantum communication networks were established, allowing real-time information exchange between human and coral research teams. What had begun as a desperate distress call now transformed into a comprehensive technological and cultural partnership. The Void Swarm's retreat wasn't considered a total victory. Military strategists understood this was likely just the first engagement in a potentially long-term conflict. Humanity had proven its capabilities, but the mechanical threat remained a significant unknown. Reconstruction efforts began immediately. Human engineering teams worked alongside coral survivors, helping them rebuild critical infrastructure. Advanced fabrication technologies allowed rapid restoration of planetary systems that had been systematically destroyed. President Kang's diplomatic approach was deliberate and compassionate. "We did not come as conquerors," he stated in the first public transmission, "but as partners in survival. Our goal is not dominance, but mutual understanding." The technological transfer was unprecedented. Coral quantum computational models combined with human adaptive engineering created solutions that neither civilization could have developed independently. It was a true partnership of innovation. Surviving coral leaders were surprised by humanity's approach. Unlike other civilizations they had encountered, humans showed no interest in territorial expansion or resource extraction. The rescue had been performed with what seemed like pure humanitarian motivation. Military research continued, but with a collaborative approach. Human and coral teams began developing advanced defensive technologies designed to protect not just their own civilizations, but potential future allies facing similar threats. Ambassador Ba's diplomatic team worked tirelessly to establish comprehensive communication protocols. They weren't just translating languages, but creating frameworks for understanding fundamentally different cultural and technological perspectives. The United Earth Council approved massive resource allocations for continued support and research. What had begun as a rescue mission was now transforming into humanity's first serious step into broader galactic engagement. Technological innovations emerged rapidly. Quantum communication systems that could potentially connect multiple civilizations. Adaptive defensive technologies that could protect against mechanical threats. Computational models that redefined understanding of artificial and biological intelligence. The coral began referring to humans using a term that roughly translated to unexpected guardians, a title that carried profound respect and a hint of amazement. Humanity had not just rescued them, but had done so with an approach that challenged their entire understanding of interstellar relationships. As reconstruction continued, something remarkable happened. The surviving coral populations began sharing their historical records, cultural archives, and scientific knowledge. It was an act of complete trust, recognizing that humanity had saved them when no one else would. President Kang understood the moment's significance. This was more than a diplomatic achievement. This was humanity's introduction to a larger, more complex universal community. Their actions would be remembered, studied, and potentially used as a model for future interstellar interactions. The first true alliance between humans and an extraterrestrial civilization was being born. Not through conquest, but through compassion, innovation, and an unexpected capacity for understanding. The universe was watching, and humanity had just changed everything.